Director Leonard, who knew the situation, was shocked and ordered them to quickly bring those lunatics back. Meanwhile, Hood was near the bookstore discussing plans with other omniscient faction members. After long observation, Hood determined the bookstore owner had no power himself, or if he did, it was very weak. But to be safe, he brought all the powered exoskeleton armor. As the saying goes, all fear stems from insufficient firepower. Wearing this armor, he had nothing to fear. They burst into the bookstore and found it very ordinary with no defensive formations. After having subordinates check the books downstairs, Hood activated the invisibility coating and went upstairs to investigate. Meanwhile, Yifan finally finished training and woke up. Why is sleeping so tiring? Suddenly he sensed a stranger entering his room. He hurriedly applied what he just learned, gripping the magic sword and waiting and hiding. When the other approached, Yifan touched behind the intruder and pressed the sword against his neck. Hood was terrified by this sudden attack. Breaking and entering? Your accomplices are all downstairs, right? From the moment you stepped into the bookstore, I've been tracking your every move, Yifan bluffed. Care to guess what will happen to your accomplices? At this moment, screams came from downstairs. That must be Xiao Yue showing her skills. Do you understand the situation now? Now, put down the gun. The terrified Hood obediently complied. Yifan seized this opportunity to directly cut Hood's runic mechanical gun that he'd spent all his funds and effort developing in half with one sword strike. Just as he felt devastated, Yifan continued swinging his sword, dismantling his even more precious powered exoskeleton armor into pieces. He despairingly collapsed on the ground, letting Yifan do as he pleased. While wondering why this robber suddenly acted like a victim, Yifan tied him up, then led him downstairs, constantly lecturing along the way. After all, he used to be a teacher. Reaching the first floor, he saw armored soldiers lying on the ground, unable to move, and Xiao Yue standing. Well done, Xiao Yue. But these people weren't actually taken down by Xiao Yue. When she came down, these people were already lying on the ground, convulsing with books in hand. Of course, she promptly closed the door to prevent them from escaping, which was also a great achievement, so she felt no need to explain. While Hood recognized this young girl and thought in terror, so the most perfect android that went missing before is in this bookstore. This is also part of the bookstore owner's plan. Is his target the Truth Society? Yifan remembered he had befriended Tai Long, a high-ranking police officer, so he called him to handle this. Tai Long was busy fighting villains. Only after finally achieving victory did he have time to inform Yifan he was battling the Blood Feast organization. Hearing this term, Lin Fan recalled a few days ago when Wild came to ask his opinion, should he accept the Blood Feast invitation. Yifan worried it was a pyramid scheme and advised Wild not to go. But that's nothing. What's the situation on Mr. Yi's side? Only then did Yifan come back to himself, informing the other that he had subdued several omniscient faction robbers and hoped he could handle it promptly. But Tai Long currently couldn't break away and could only handle it after some time. Yifan had no choice but to hang up and arrange for Xiao Yue to remove all their armor and tie them up. Besides his heartache, Hood discovered these people had no wounds. Only then did he understand they all failed at plundering knowledge and suffered backlash. Failed plundering generally has two reasons. Either the knowledge content is too large, exceeding the soul's storage limit, or the knowledge content is too deep, exceeding what the soul can bear. Looking at these people's condition, it seemed both reasons coexisted. Each of them only looked at one book from the bookstore and temporarily became idiots. Meanwhile, Xiao Yue skillfully tied them all up. So Yifan began interrogation and used this to educate Hood. Are you from the Truth Society? Hood was already scared out of his wits and hastily revealed everything about himself. Have you heard of these two people, Hall and Rupert? These two were the authors of the documents Scarface sent. Hall is the former director of potionology. Rupert was the last director of archaeology. After his death, archaeology was abolished. But Yifan felt strange. Why was archaeology abolished immediately after Rupert died? There must be hidden circumstances. So he pressed on. How did Rupert die? But Hood didn't answer as readily as before. Instead, nervously shut his mouth. Seeing him not answer, Yifan stepped forward threateningly. How about I directly trade you to the Truth Society? Hood's weak point was immediately seized. It turned out he had always been doing whatever he wanted because Truth Society President Maria was his aunt. But every time he caused trouble, Aunt Maria would severely discipline Hood. Fortunately, she's been in seclusion cultivating recently, but if she found out he was kidnapped and leaked secrets, his days certainly wouldn't be good. For this, Hood would rather be killed than be traded. Seeing his panic, Yifan was satisfied. Now he could proceed to the next step of moral education. Let's do this. We'll play a game. Try to plunder my knowledge. If you succeed, I'll let you go. Otherwise, you tell me the cause of Rupert's death. Defeat him thoroughly in his area of expertise and cure his Chunabu. Hood knew he couldn't refuse and had to agree. Hood immediately entered a meditative state and calculated. Facing such a terrifying existence, I only need to plunder a tiny bit to win the game, to avoid sudden death. I have rich experience, and this time I have time to prepare slowly. No reason to lose. This wave advantage is mine. After thorough preparation, he cautiously extended his touch of gnosis toward Yifan's soul, but found Yifan's soul was completely unguarded like an ordinary person. After successfully seizing part of the knowledge, just as he was delightedly planning to retreat completely, a huge pitch-black beast suddenly appeared and swallowed him. Then more twisted and bizarre giant creatures emerged. They roared in languages he couldn't understand. The stars also transformed into monsters, opening giant mouths and extending tentacles toward him. He felt himself continuously falling in this eerie, starry sky. In the chaos, he realized knowledge itself was the trap, so the other didn't need any defense at all. Every bit of knowledge here was irreversible mental poison. Before being completely corroded, Hood hastily conceded and begged for mercy. Though he finally escaped those terrible monsters, he still hugged his head, convulsing in shock. Meanwhile, Yifan was quite puzzled. I didn't do anything. Why did he suddenly become like this? Is this insurance fraud? Yifan hurriedly stepped forward to inquire about the situation. Hood regained consciousness. At this moment, I'm fine. Now Yifan breathed a sigh of relief and turned to return to his seat. Just then, a third eye grew on Hood's forehead, startling Xiao Yue. Perhaps he didn't fail at plundering, but was fortunate enough to glimpse a small portion of knowledge. But is this mutated Hood still the same person? Boss really has a wicked sense of humor. Seeing Yifan return, Xiao Yue pretended not to have seen anything. At this moment, the eye on Hood's forehead receded, and he sat quite obediently. Seeing this, Yifan was quite satisfied. He became so well-behaved at once. Seems my moral education worked excellently. Do you understand now? Still plundering knowledge. What omniscient faction? I understand. After seeing the true world, I finally understand. All my previous knowledge was false. My past cognition was all distorted. Everything about my past was wrong. Hearing this, Yifan was overjoyed. Today, teacher Yi successfully saved another lost youth. Yifan wanted to pour more chicken soup for the soul and further develop him into his loyal customer. He instructed Xiao Yue to bring a chair for him to sit on, though this guy was being a bit too respectful. But that's not important. Pouring chicken soup is the priority. You're still young with a bright future ahead. Don't think about getting something for nothing. Only things obtained through your own effort can truly fulfill you. You're right, the omniscient faction's philosophy is nothing but castles in the air. I need to walk my own path with a solid foundation. Then use your own wisdom to forge your path. Wisdom is more important than knowledge. With knowledge you can create new things, but with wisdom you can create new knowledge. Hearing this, Hood was greatly shocked and deeply moved. After satisfying his guidance addiction, Yifan remembered the main business. Ponder these principles slowly after you return. But first tell me about Rupert. Hood naturally spoke without reservation. Rupert didn't die naturally, but went mad from glimpsing forbidden secrets while researching the history of the transition between second and third eras, and ultimately committed suicide. Several scholars in archaeology wanted to research the cause of his death, but also died one after another. From then on, no one dared to continue investigating, and everyone fell into panic. Continuing research would spread the Great Plague from history to reality. To stop the panic from continuing to spread, the Truth Society ultimately decided to abolish archaeology. All related documents were sealed, with the highest access level being the Age of Darkness that Rupert read before committing suicide. This book was exactly what Yifan was looking for. At this moment, Hood proudly said, I can get this book for you. My aunt is the Truth Society president. No wonder this kid dared to break in with a gun. Turns out he has connections above, Yifan thought. At this moment, the other members of the omniscient faction finally regained consciousness. Yifan instructed Xiao Yue to untie them, and told Hood to properly educate them when they returned. Tai Long, having finished his mission, finally rushed to the bookstore, only to find the omniscient faction members had all been subdued by Mr. Yi. Surely Mr. Yi had already used some means to punish them, so he might as well let them go. Just as they left the bookstore and arrived at a secluded location. You all saw it, right? We saw it. We saw it. What was written in that book is the truth. Then, from this day forward, we no longer believe in truth. What should we believe in? Mr. Yi has shown us the way. We should worship him as our master. Mr. Yi said wisdom creates new knowledge, so we believe in wisdom. Meanwhile, at the bookstore, Tai Long asked Yifan about Wild's whereabouts. Yifan thought those two old friends still hadn't reconciled, that Wild was still angry about the past and deliberately avoiding Scarface, so he planned to mediate between them next time. We still haven't found him, but we have a lead. He stayed at 52nd Street for at least a day some time ago. Yifan was alarmed. Wasn't that where the second explosion accident reported on TV recently occurred? Looking at Tai Long's expression, Wild might be connected to this attack. Could Wild have joined a terrorist organization after being traumatized by his adopted son's incident? I haven't seen him in a long time. Is he related to the explosion? Just tell me directly. Only then did Tai Long breathe a sigh of relief, thinking, fortunately, the bookstore owner didn't continue secretly helping Wild. However, Wild has known Mr. Yi longer, and the shop still displays gifts from Wild. Getting Mr. Yi to help against Wild is basically impossible. Just hope he's willing to provide more clues. Speaking of which, Wild once told me about Bloodfeast inviting him, and I advised him not to go. Now it seems he probably didn't follow my advice. Hearing this, Tai Long was greatly shocked. We just detected Wild's trail, and Bloodfeast appeared. Perhaps they really joined forces. Meanwhile, the Hunter organization Black Beast members were getting restless. They had already allied with Hunter organizations like Megalodon, preparing to seize the White Wolf original formula from Spider. Black Beast leader Gru had a plan ready to monopolize the spoils of victory. For this, he invited the destruction-level Hunter Pale Watchman Yasuo to assist. The perspective shifts to Spider, who had already been fighting other Hunter organizations for several days. Under Marx's leadership, this squad was preparing to break through the encirclement and join their leader's main force. Suddenly, a super fat man charged out from the side, punching toward Marx's head. Marx couldn't dodge in time just as his head was about to explode. A strong man twice as tall as the super fat man came to assist, grabbing the opponent's fist with one hand, then his other hand's hammer heavily smashed down, exploding the super fat man's head on the spot. Just after breaking the encirclement, more enemies charged from afar. The newcomers were the main force of Megalodon. The strong man was about to charge forward for a good fight, when suddenly a large number of skeleton soldiers appeared on the battlefield, grabbing all the enemies. The Megalodon hunters all fell into panic. At this moment, the caster appeared. She was Black Pearl, who had previously jumped from Black Beast to Spider. She manipulated the skeletons to control the enemy's movements, making them all commit suicide. Black Pearl then exchanged pleasantries with the strong man. It turned out this strong man was called Iron-Armed Lie, also a newcomer who just joined Spider. Before everyone left, Black Pearl exhausted all her aether to leave behind a trap. When Megalodon's reinforcements arrived, the trap activated. A huge skeleton dragon blocked their path, killing quite a few people. But the reason Megalodon had always been considered the strongest among hunter organizations was because they were quite aggressive. Once battle began, they fought to the death. At this moment, a pitch-black figure leaped high, preparing to launch a heavy slash at the skeleton dragon. He was Megalodon's leader, Olga, a lunatic obsessed with combat. Olga's ultimate move, Shark Slash, cut the skeleton dragon in two, completely annihilating it. This battle was quite satisfying for him, but he wasn't satisfied yet, wanting to continue fighting until Spider or his own destruction. Meanwhile, the other squad had successfully rendezvoused with Jijiksu. Black Pearl called Jijiksu master, rushing forward like a puppy seeking pats. It turned out when she was in Black Beast's